Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I am Tela Mathias, one of the managing partners at Phoenix Team. And I am here, as always, with Brian Woodring. Thanks for joining us, Brian.
Hey, Tila, thanks for having me.
Always. So it's been a little while. As a quick reminder, this is our 10-part series around accessible AI, focused on how AI and generative AI is going to transform the way software development is done. We covered ideation, we covered shared understanding, we covered the problem of requirements, we talked about product design, solution design. And so we've talked a lot about what the landscape is like out there. And now we want to kind of move into all right, well, that's all great. What are we going to do about it? So that was going to be the focus of the remaining 4 parts in our series.
And so this is episode 7. I am very excited because in this episode, I get to turn the tables because you now become the subject of this podcast briefly. And we're going to talk about your experience leading a team, building software. It's very meta, building software with and for Gen AI. So we're going to talk in the first of these 2 episodes, number 7 here, a little bit about the process of starting a team from scratch and building a software product and bringing it to production in 2024 and what that's like. And then in the second episode, number 8, we're going to actually talk about the product and the technical challenges that you've encountered in the team and how you've overcome them. So very exciting stuff. So let's set the table. I believe you're about now 100 days into leading this brand new software team, bringing an AI product to market, Phoenix Burst. So can you start by just telling us, just for a minute, give us like the elevator pitch around Burst and like what was the idea you started with to get underway here?
Happy to. It's my passion project, and I get really excited talking about it. And we've talked a lot about these problems, so I won't belabor things we've covered in earlier sessions. But the basic problem that we started trying to solve is maximizing value and minimizing waste in software development. Because we've covered all the problems. Now what are we actually going to do about it? It starts, of course, with the customer. Who is our customer? Our customer here is every executive, every CTO, every federal SES are responsible for delivering benefits to Americans and other eligible recipients. And they're spending too much money and it takes too long, right? I've spent millions last month. I have nothing to show for it. Dates are meaningless. Nothing's in production. And then my favorite, I have no idea if the value is worth the cost. We don't know if our systems are worth what we've spent on them. We don't know the value or the impact of change. And it's thankless and it's tiring. And so it's not great for our customers out there. It's also, unfortunately, not great for our erstwhile despondent Scrum team, right? Our product owners. I hope I get it right the first time. Takes too long to get feedback. Our analysts, sure, let me Google that and put it into the latest format. Or now let me just ask ChatGPT. Developers not understanding, despite all the best efforts, what requirements actually mean, why they're important. And my favorite is the tester, right? The poor tester. Another death march to production where I definitely won't get more time and we're going to push the release date at the last minute anyway. So it's really not looking good for our teams either. And then there's everybody else, present company, not excluded, lovingly, Brian. Leadership and others who are all very well intended, but they're not making software and they're rooting us on. Great job, guys. It just needs to be better, faster, cheaper, work better. I need more features. If it could be different, don't worry. Let us help you fix the process.
Absolutely.
And as we've talked
moral
about,
support and to interfere. Absolutely.
That's right. Moral support and a better process. And as we've covered off, I don't think the process is the problem. Everybody makes software pretty much the same way. Some do it better, some do it worse. Some people get more customer feedback. Some people do more product design. But basically, the process isn't the problem. And so our hypothesis is that we can use AI and generative AI to not only create the artifacts of software development that are so often table stakes, that we can use generative AI to create those artifacts. And even more importantly, a longer term hypothesis is that we can actually use generative AI to quantify the value of our software. And therefore, we can also determine the value of change. And we think that is a bajillion-dollar problem if we can actually solve it. But it's been too expensive and too manual to do that today. So that's basically the problem we're trying to solve, and what Burst is all about.
And so it's funny, I was just thinking about, as you were talking, that I've known you for 20 years now, and I think this is the problem we've been trying to solve the entire time.
It's pretty much the problem in software development, right? Is our software valuable?
It is.
How do we get to value fast? How do we not do wasted work and instead get to the good stuff?
Yeah. So it is one thing to spot a problem and to elaborate on it and understand it, but it's an entirely other thing to actually do something about it. So a few months ago, you decided to put a team together and actually start building a piece of software that could actually accelerate the software development lifecycle, not just define it and make it more organized and more process driven, but actually make it faster.
Yeah.
And
better, not just faster.
And better, more value, yes, more
valuable,
faster, which is really the key, right? We're all here to deliver value. So when you started this out, you had this idea, you had this vision, and you need to put a team together. So what was your thought process around what kind of team you would need? Because this is also, so while you're doing this mission, you're also doing it with new types of technology that are still kind of emerging in the Wild West with generative AI. So there's like a double challenge there. So how did you think about what kind of team you would need to actually accomplish something like this?
Great question. And so I have a classic 2-pizza team. I say classic, and it's actually not that classic. It's an engineering heavy team because this is a very technical product. And we were going to do what we know, right? We're going to run Scrum. It's going to be great. We're going to run one week sprints. We're going to do sprint planning. We're going to do sprint reviews. And that proved not to be a great plan. And I'm sure I know Scrum is great for a lot of things. Scrum is not great for building a brand new spanking piece of technology based on emerging technology that we all have to learn and figure it out. We really had to do much more of a Kanban approach. Our team is engineering heavy, and we are doing our best to be optimized for the engineers. And sometimes that also means that process is less important than anything else, which we know, of course, is part of the promise of the Agile Manifesto. But we've really had to eat our own dog food here. So it's a small team. It's an awesome team, optimized for engineers, or at least that's our goal. Optimized for engineering the back end of using a large language model to generate stuff. And that there's been a lot of learning, and a lot of what we had to do, and the reason that we kind of abandoned Scrum and went more Kanban is because there is so much learning. What we found when we had our sprint reviews is we're like, all right, guys, we had a goal. Did we hit our goal? And it's like, no, not exactly. But what about all these other things we did?
Yeah, but probably because the goal changed 3 times that week, right?
The goal would change. That's exactly right. You move the goalpost, but then you get to sprint review and you're all depressed because you didn't hit your goal. But we did. Just the goal changed in the middle so fast because we're learning so much so fast.
Yeah. Well, in the first 100 days, right, the real goal isn't necessarily to build the product. It's to figure out what the product actually is, right? And so you're at the point where, I've watched this sort of evolve from the thing you initially imagined, and it's pivoted significantly sometimes week to week, sometimes based on feedback from a demo. So actually take a minute. Let's talk about how you are thinking about goal setting at this point in time. Like, what is, at any moment in time, what is the team sprinting towards? And how do you think about like keeping that momentum and keeping that urgency?
Another good question, and I'll use a visual that I cannot take credit for. I got this from Session Labs. I've never actually been to Learning Legendario, but I do want to give credit where credit is due. And in terms of your question, setting goals for the team and what that journey's been like, definitely when we started, and still sometimes if it's Tuesday and it's raining, I'm definitely number 12. I'm like watching that AI ship rapidly sail away. Am I too late? How do I catch it? How do I close the gap? What should I be doing? And that's been a part of the journey. At times I feel like, hey guys, like, look, I can see it. It's there. I know where we're going. And then sometimes I'm also like, wait a minute, more like number 9, like, oh, I don't know. The ship is going. Are we going in the right direction? And at times there are obstacles. The next demo that we need to do is more like number 17, right? And then I've heard a lot of feedback that said, hey, well, this is all great. But what about when we have to modify existing systems? What are you going to do? And then that's like a cannonball into the side of the ship that it's like, oh yeah, or the value. We got to make sure we're valuable. And at times, a little bit despondent here, like the guy on 18. But that's, in terms of how do we set our goals and keep our goals, we have to be open to the fact that they're going to change. We have to stay laser focused on getting as much feedback as possible. So, I'm not trying to sell anything, really just trying to learn and see what it is that people wanted. At the end of the day, a demo is nice. Being able to show something is nice. Building software is super cool. But I need to be able to add value. And the first place I need to start to add that value is in my own company. And so what we're laser focused on right now, after having gotten lots and lots of feedback, is I need to get something into production for my company, because my company is full of value engineers that are right in the middle of a lot of these processes. And so that's the laser focus right now, is how do we get to production so that we can empower our value engineers, our team members, to get to more value faster.
Yeah. Well, so that's fascinating to me. Anyone who's built software with me over the years know I talk a lot about production pressure and the importance of shipping early, shipping often, staying close to production, staying close to people really using it. And so you're about to go through that transition, right? This first 100 days has been fun, but that you're kind of like unmoored. You're like shipping to a demo, right? And to show people, and that's no matter how cool that is, and it's important. It's going to be very different soon, because you're going to be shipping to production, and then repeatedly over and over again shipping to users and getting, because the kind of feedback you get from people who use it every day is very different than the kind of feedback you get from a demo. So that's going to be a huge pivot to like, what are some of those challenges? Like, is that something you must be excited about it. There's probably also a little bit nervous about it. Like this is your baby and now you're going to real production with it. So what are your thoughts about what that next like 90 or 100 days are going to look like when Burst is actually a production piece of software?
And we took baby Burst to production as quickly as possible to do some initial learnings with a custom GPT. So we built the first incarnation of our Burst product inside the ChatGPT stack. We created a custom GPT. It's basically a little RAG bot. Maybe we could talk more about that in the next session, because we needed to figure out some of these pathways. What is the pipeline even going to look like? How do we contextualize the information? Anybody who's working in this space right now that knows that in order to have good inferences, we have to be grounded in the real world, which means context is everything right now. And setting that context is something that we know that the large language models today aren't especially good at. So we had to learn a bunch of stuff. And then when we look at some of the challenges towards getting to production, as always, okay, guys, well, we got to do table stakes first. These are all things we know how to do. Don't worry, we already know how to generate requirements. We already know how to assign the metadata to those requirements. But then our production target, which we got some great feedback, shout out to Bob Schatz, Agile Infusion, he's like, hey, don't just roll it out to, say, 10 different people. Roll it out to a project. Give it to a whole team and see what they can do. And that was a great piece of feedback. And so we found an awesome team. Actually, we found a couple teams that we're going to use. And one of their problems for one team is spot on table stakes. We're already doing it. That's great. Then our other team, there's a slight little variation in what they want to do. They're kind of in a different space. They're doing a little bit of a different thing, but it's really, really close. So we got to do table stakes first. And I don't know about you, Brian, but those table stakes, there's so many loose ends. There's so many things. There's so many hurdles. And so, that production mindset means, guys, we got to button up all those loose ends. Guys, we got to, in the case of what we're doing, something that's been especially challenging is like, gosh darn it, we have to parse and chunk those documents, which means we need to make these darn documents machine readable. And like, shout out Sam Altman, if you're listening, if you could please make 5.0 handle chunking and parsing documents, that'd be really great. Thanks. That's been a huge challenge.
Well, I think we're almost at time here. And I think next episode, we're actually going to get more specific about what some of those technical challenges are, which should be really exciting to get the rubber meeting the road and actually talk about the product that got delivered and maybe even show a little bit about it.
I would love to do that. Also, as always, we'd love to hear your feedback on, anything you're hearing about or anything you're doing out there. So thanks for turning the table on us, Brian. I really appreciate it. This was super fun. And so we will end our episode today with a thanks to Brian. Thanks to all of you for watching. And I'm Tela Mathias. I'm the managing partner at Phoenix Team and also the chief value engineer of our Burst product and our AI services practice here with Brian Woodring. And that's all we have for today. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks for being here, Brian.
See you in the next episode.